All right, here's how this is going to go. I'm going to make an analogy. You're going to think that you understand this analogy, and then I'm going to explain further and show you what I'm really getting at. So today's Wednesday, March 20th, 2024. Here we go. So, who designed boats? Who's responsible for the shape and design of the vessels that we use to traverse water? If you look across society, across history, if you look at the shape of every boat ever made, who's responsible for the design? The humans or the water? To what extent is the shape up to our creative control, and to what extent is the shape restricted by the physical properties of water? Hopefully that makes sense. So what I'm saying here is that the design of a boat, the design of a structure that you use to float across water, is restricted by the physical properties of water itself. You can't just do anything you want with a boat. You have to fit it within a solution space. So there's a problem in front of us, and that is, I want to go across water. And there's a limited set of solutions. So if you look at any boat built by anybody across time that actually worked, they're going to have a series of things in common. There will obviously be unique elements of each boat across cultures, but there's going to be a core set of attributes about boats that they will all have in common, even though these boat designers never talk to each other. So who designed the boat? The people or the water? Hopefully that makes sense. So what I'm saying here in this analogy is that the boat is civilization, the water is nature. To what extent is the design of civilization up to us? And to what extent is the design of civilization up to the physical restrictions of the universe around us? So, this video is titled, "You Don't Hate the Patriarchy." Here's what I'm not saying. I'm not saying the patriarchy is the boat. Because, here's why. Patriarchy is older than civilization. Patriarchy is older than humans. We didn't invent patriarchy the way that we invented boats. We were born into a patriarchal social structure already. How do I know this? Well, look back at where we came from. We share common ancestry with chimps. Chimps have patriarchal structure. Go even further back. Gorillas, orangutans, patriarchal structure. Bonobos, baboons, capuchin monkeys, old world monkeys, new world monkeys, patriarchal structure. Any animal species that you look at that has this alpha male concept, right, which we know is real, that's not made up, that's a patriarchal structure. Most mammals have a patriarchal structure. There are exceptions, but in general, the rule is patriarchy. It's like the boat, right? Are the attributes of the boat there because of the creative control of evolution? Like, if you think about evolution as the designer of the boat, is it just up to the creativity, or is it determined by the physical restrictions of the environment? So what I'm saying is patriarchy is an evolutionary adaptation that occurred as a response to the physical restrictions of the universe. So if you think about it, look at your own body. I'm going to look at my body for a second here. I have lungs that breathe air, right? Is that just because of evolution made something up? No, it's because in the problem set of creating animals that can walk around on land, that can live on land, there's a gaseous environment, right? There's gas in the air, so I had to have lungs that can breathe it in and out, right? Were lungs just invented, or are they a result of the physical restrictions? If you look at the density of my bones, if you look at the way my muscles are shaped and attached to bones, it's restricted by gravity, right? By the force of gravity. If the planet was larger or more massive, my bones would be shaped differently. My body would be shaped differently. If gravity was weaker, my body would be shaped differently. So look at the structure of your hand. Like, I mean, you can just pull out these examples constantly. Is my hand shaped like this because, like, why that shape, right? Does it have anything to do with the structure of trees? You know, did I share common ancestry with animals that spend all their time in trees? Probably, right? So the shape of our bodies are like the boat across water. They're a solution to the set of physical problems in front of us. And here's the part that I think most people don't make the next leap to. It's not just our bodies, it's our minds, right? Our minds are our bodies. There's no difference. My brain is my body, my brain is my behavior, it's my mind, it's everything. What behaviors do I have that are like my hand or like my lungs, right? That just are a result of the physical restraints in front of me. So here's one I always bring up. Here's one example of a behavior that I always bring up. I avoid shit because it smells bad, right? I think you do too. I think we all do. I think all animals tend, well, unless you're a dung beetle, but all animals avoid shit because it's filled with bacteria, because that is an evolutionary adaptation, right? If you loved the smell of shit, you'd hang out around where shit is and you would die of some bacterial infection, right? So you have a behavior. You behave as if shit is something you should avoid. That is the same as the shape of your hand or the shape of your feet or the shape of anything. That's a structure designed to respond to the environment. So what else exists inside the environment, right? It's not just trees, it's not just gravity and air, there's other animals, right? It's not just shit, there's other animals. Some of them are my species. Most of the animals I interact with on a day-to-day basis, going back 10 million years into my ancestry, were other animals of my species. Those are part of the environment. So there are structures in my body that are adapted to handle the other members of my species. So if you think about something like shit, it's easy enough, right? That's a smell, I don't like it, I avoid it, right? What about the feeling of embarrassment? Shame, embarrassment. We've all done something in front of somebody else or a group of our peers where you felt cringy, right? The feeling of cringe, that's not just invented, that's not just a random thing that just occurs inside of our minds for no reason. That is a response to the restrictions of the environment around us. I feel embarrassed when I do something stupid in front of my peers, because if I constantly do stupid things in front of my peers, I'm less likely to survive. So think about it like your body's the boat, water is the restriction. So for whatever reason, the boat that is my body has a structure responsible for causing me to feel embarrassed, because that helps me traverse the water of life, right? Hopefully this analogy is starting to make a little bit more sense. At first I said that the boat is civilization. Now what I'm saying is the boat is us, is humanity itself, right? The structure of my body is the boat to get me across. And then, when you really think about it, like I was just talking about, a lot of our behaviors and feelings are not just adaptations to the physical environment, but they're social adaptations. We've spent tens of millions of years interacting with each other, so we've built social adaptations. And one of these adaptations is patriarchy. Patriarchy is an adaptation for our species to survive in the universe. So when you say you hate the patriarchy, what exactly are you saying? What exactly are you saying? If you really think about it, it's like you're standing on a boat and you're saying, I hate boats, right? And if you hate boats and you're standing on a boat, somebody could reasonably ask you something like, okay, what would you do to survive on this water right now? Like, how would you build a boat, right? And if you just invent a boat that doesn't take into consideration the physical constraints, you're going to drown. You're going to kill all of us, right? We're all going to die on your boat unless it's designed with knowledge of how H2O molecules interact with each other, for example, right? If you don't know what buoyancy is, I'm not going to stand on your boat. I'm just not going to do that. That's when people say they hate patriarchy, right? They want to change something. There's something about society they would like to change. There's something about the boat that we're standing on that they hate, that they would like to change. To what extent is it just a political slogan, right? when you say, I hate the patriarchy, are you really saying I hate the 100 million year old social adaptation, right? Are people really saying that? I don't think they are. Although patriarchy is, by definition, much older than most people think it is, right? If you talk to any feminist today, almost all of them will say patriarchy was invented like 10,000 years ago or 100,000 years ago. They'll say patriarchy is a recent human invention. Patriarchy is the rules, the norms, the laws, it's the social structure that humans invented. But in fact, patriarchy was invented way before we even existed, right? We were born into a patriarchy. We were born onto the boat, and then we looked around and we're like, oh, the boat is shaped. We discovered patriarchy, right? We didn't invent it, we discovered it. So, all right, 10 minutes in. When people say they hate the patriarchy, they're not talking about the social adaptation. So what are they talking about? What are they talking about? When they say they want to change things that are happening today in society, what are they talking about? This is where a whole new can of worms is opened up. I was talking to a friend about this. She said she hates the patriarchy. We talked about it for a while. I made it clear that patriarchy is a lot older than she may have previously thought. And then she goes, okay, no, I don't hate the patriarchy. I hate how it's upheld in modern society. So one big question is, to what extent is it upheld just by our instinctual natural feelings? Right? Like I said, the shape of my hand is not up to me. Neither is the shape of my brain or the shape of my instinctual behaviors. And I have instinctual behaviors that determine how I interact with the humans around me. And it turns out that when you add together all the humans and all of their instinctual behaviors, patriarchy is there, right? It's like an emergent property of all of our behaviors combined. So, can we change that? How much power do we have over that? Would it be a genetic change, right? Wouldn't you expect there to have to be a genetic change? Because there's somewhere in our DNA, essentially, is the patriarchy is encoded, right? So forget that. We're going to say we're not talking about genetic. All right, let me phrase it this way. There's clearly a biological layer of reality, right? There's the physical layer, and then there's the biological layer, and then there's the social layer, the meme layer, right? The culture layer. So a lot of people think that we have some sort of extreme creative control over the cultural layer, which kind of makes a lot of sense because I can do anything I want, right? I can say anything I want right now. I can go live wherever I want. I can run around, do or say whatever I want. I do have some amount of free will that other animals don't seem to have. I have creativity that other animals don't have. Why shouldn't I be able to just overcome my instinctual biological layer and create whatever culture I want? Well, back to shit, back to poop. Check this out. Look at the shape of any house across time in any culture, right? We have creative control over our houses, right? You look at the way people live, the structures they build, where they live, how they build them. This is something you would think that we have a lot of creative control over. Problem is, we're still restricted by things. So look at where people shit, where people put their toilets or where they put their outhouses or wherever they take a shit. It's not where they eat. Never. You're never going to walk into a house and see a toilet in the kitchen. You're just not going to see that unless it's a really weird house. People aren't happy with that, right? They're not happy with that. We don't build our houses that way. Is that culture, right? Is that, if you were to say, it's not a cultural fact that we don't shit where we eat. That's a biological fact. But then the shape of our house is not determined by culture, right? It's determined by biology. So, to what extent is our culture changeable? You would never put a toilet in the kitchen. You've never found that anywhere in the world, right? So, what I'm trying to say here is, how much is the structure of our society today biologically determined? I think that it's more biologically determined than people seem to realize, at least the modern people I talk to. And I'm going to come back to pool tables now. I'm jumping all over the place, but I promise I'm on some sort of track here. This is about hating the patriarchy, right? This is about why you don't hate the patriarchy. So one of the big problems that people have, if you talk to these people, if you get them into a deep conversation about patriarchy, it usually turns out that one of their big problems is really the shape of the capitalist system. How come the jobs that men hold get paid more than the jobs that women hold, right? Their complaint isn't with patriarchy, the biological adaptation. Their complaint is with capitalism, truly, and the way that it seems to treat the sexes differently. So this is an obvious fact that people don't seem to realize. The reason that an engineer is paid more than a teacher, for example, is not because engineers are worth more in the spiritual sense, right? I think we all agree that teachers are worth a lot in a social responsibility and an ethical responsibility sense. Teachers are worth a lot. Firefighters are worth a lot. Nurses are worth a lot, right? These social workers, people that do the work that we need in society, are worth a lot. They do a lot for us. People that take care of sick people and kids and elderly people. They are valuable members of society, but capitalism does not value that. Because as an investor, if you're trying to make millions and millions of dollars, who are you going to invest in? A teacher or an engineer? Which one of those is going to get you more money back on your investment, right? And the answer is obviously engineers. That's why this should be self-evident. I don't know how much I have to explain this. So the reason that we see sexual disparity in average wages is not because of... So what does it mean that what does this mean, the patriarchy and then the sexual disparity in wages? Men are more attracted to the jobs that make more money. And you can see this in the behavior that you witness in dive bars. As somebody who's been to a bunch of dive bars around the country with pool tables, you walk inside, who do you see around the pool table? What behavior do you see around the pool table? You ever walked into a dive bar and seen a bunch of women competing seriously for a pool table? Have you ever seen that? No. You walk into a dive bar, you see a group of men competing for the pool table. Everybody's got their quarter down to play next. It's men competing seriously. Men are attracted to pool tables. We love the game of pool. Women do play. I'm a competitive pool player. I've played women. I've lost to women. I'm not saying women suck at pool inherently or anything. I'm just saying that men on average are more attracted to pool for sexual reasons, for the reasons that make... I gotta slow down here. The sexual differences in our body are responsible for the behavior that we see at something like a dive bar. You're going to see more men around the table because, well, for whatever reason, we love hitting balls into other balls. It's a competition. It's a way of proving that you're better than another guy. It's kind of like a dominance thing. It's also like a hunting thing if you want to think about it. You're like hitting a target from far away. It's objects. It's a very objective physical game. There's no social dynamics in it whatsoever. It's we can say that these are stereotypes, but the stereotypes are built. The stereotypes exist for a reason, right? Because men are just more into these things. Males of the species are more into these things. Women are just not as into these things. And that plays out across the entire social landscape, including jobs. So men are more likely to become engineers. Are there no women engineers? No, nobody's ever said that. But there's way more male engineers. Engineers get paid more. It's not because they're men. It's just capitalism values the positions that men are attracted to more than it values the positions that women are attracted to. You can call that the patriarchy. You can complain about that and say that you hate that fact. But that just is. That's just a fact of life. I've made this point in other videos, but there is never going to be a world where we have an equal 50-50 distribution in competitions like pool, like chess, and the same goes for competitions like engineering jobs, because it is a competition to get a job. Men are just more attracted to these things. And for now, these things are more valuable to a capitalist. So when people say I hate the patriarchy, it really sounds like to me they're saying I hate capitalism. And then we're in a different subject area, but The point is, we're on a boat, okay? And the boat is restricted by the physical properties of the universe. And saying that you hate the boat you're standing on is gotta be like some kind of mental illness. You can want to make changes to it, but you have to consider why the boat is shaped the way it is before you ask to make changes. You cannot just creatively do anything you want. It's not just up to you. We are restricted by the physical layer and the biological layer. You can't create a society that contradicts our biological instincts. And right now our instincts are very sexual, right? And I don't mean sexual like trying to have sex with each other. I mean, we have sexual differences in our instincts. Males feel different things than females feel towards other males and towards females. I've said this 1,000 times in other videos. That instinct determines the structure of our society, the emergent structure of our behavior, which is patriarchal. That's not going to change. Not going to change. So to say you hate it, I almost recommend the Buddhist position here, right? It just is. It's just there's going to be things in life that are unfair, that might cause you pain. Maybe you hate the fact that men are always going to get paid more. You hate the fact that capitalism finds male jobs more valuable. You just have to, that just is what it is. You're free to go try and take one of those jobs if that's what interests you, but the fact that that's uncomfortable to you is something that you should consider. Why is that uncomfortable to you? Why is sex such a problem for you? Your sexual, it's like hating your body. Hating patriarchy is the same thing as hating your own body, which a lot of people do, especially young women. They hate their bodies, apparently. I mean, a lot of young men do too. A lot of men do, a lot of women do. People hate their bodies, they're uncomfortable with their bodies. It's the same mental problem as hating the structure of society, because the structure of society is determined by the structure of our bodies, which is determined by the structure of the universe, right? So like, what exactly are you hating when you say you hate the patriarchy? It could just be a convenient political slogan, whatever. I think that it's derived from a new form of Marxism, neo-Marxism, but that's a whole nother video. Just, why are you saying the things you say? You don't hate the patriarchy is all I'm trying to say. You don't hate it. You don't hate it. All right. Yeah, Wednesday, March 20th, 2024. Haven't made one of these in a long time. Hopefully this stayed on track well enough. I'll make way more of these, obviously. So, yeah, see you later. Bye.